Chapter 3054. Through the veil. Yiqing Luo could clearly see Bai Mei's changes. Especially when she saw the black qi overflowing from Bai Mei's eyes. Her slender brows creased slightly. As expected. This Bai Mei's body had already been implanted with the evil qi which belonged to the Palace of Darkness. This gush of evil qi. It was totally similar to the evil qi which was used to control Miaorongrong. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sized up Bai Mei seriously. Bai Mei could change into a young and beautiful face. It should be the credit of the Palace of Darkness. And the reason why Bai Mei followed Yan Zhenfei and Fox Sacred Law. It was probably a deal to change her face. Bai Mei was used by the Palace of Darkness. Based on the Palace of Darkness's temperament. The Palace of Darkness would absolutely not change Bai Mei's face properly. That face which Bai Mei had changed. It must have been tampered with. Today, seeing Bai Mei's look. Everything was as Yiqing Luo had predicted. Bai Mei's face was the source of that sinister aura. The Palace of Darkness wanted to make use of Bai Mei. To achieve what motive? Yiqing Luo had just expressed this question. Very quickly, Bai Mei gave her the answer. Endless black qi overflowed from Bai Mei's eyes continuously. She was like a puppet which was being controlled by someone, swaying but not slowing down as she charged madly towards Yiqing Luo. When Bai Mei's body collided against the floating purple light once again. She actually pressed her face hard onto the enchantment which was formed by the faint purple light. The purple light moved. Like bolts of lightning. Speedily shooting towards Bai Mei's face, rumbling downwards. But balls of black qi, from the surroundings of Bai Mei's face, started to seep out bit by bit. That strange black qi was like a magnet, firmly sucking on the enchantment. The entire enchantment was filled with purple electric currents, and it was twined with circles and circles of black qi. Apparently, Bai Mei wanted to forcefully break Dmo Xian's enchantment. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes as she looked at the black qi which was still seeping out, persistently twining around the enchantment. Bai Mei's face was already twisted in agony. However, the black gas continued to spread. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she narrowed her charming eyes, reflecting a cold ray of light. In any case, you were once a master of the Heavenly Academy, but now you have fallen into the devil's path. TSK. As she spoke, she shook her head in disdain. I heard that the teachers of the class of God are all from the upper realm. But now they have abandoned themselves and are entangled with the lower realm, the Dark Palace. I really don't know if your mysterious sister will regret not strangling you when you were born. Bah! The face that was stuck to the barrier suddenly moved a few inches away from the barrier. Bai Mei raised her eyes and stared at Yiqing Luo with a venomous gaze. What right do you have to mention my sister? You don't deserve to mention her. Bai Mei was provoked. The moment his face left the barrier. The black gas that was originally twisting and moving, rising and spreading. With an extremely fast speed, he quickly stopped breathing. Bai Mei also came to a sudden realization. She quickly pressed her face against the barrier again. But Yiqing Luo didn't give her this chance. Yiqing Luo intentionally used words to provoke Bai Mei, to distract her. She then took the opportunity to stop Bai Mei from using the evil qi to engulf the enchantment. Just as Bai Mei's face was about to be pressed down, Yiqing Luo's fingers moved. The glower flame fan flew out from her fingertips. It turned into a whirling flame. Chapter 3055. She cried out in pain as she swiftly retreated to avoid the glower flame fan. But the glower flame fan had already drawn a bright red wound on her cheek. Endless black qi seeped out along with the blood. When Bai Mei was a few steps away from the enchantment, Yiqing Luo's fingers moved. That raging flame which was swirling in mid-air immediately returned to Yiqing Luo's hands. Bai Mei covered her face as her scarlet poisonous eyes stared at Yiqing Luo vigilantly. But no matter how vigilant Bai Mei was, compared to Yiqing Luo's speed, she was far behind. Bai Mei didn't see clearly what Yi Qing Luo had done. She only felt that her body seemed to be bound by something. Her 4 limbs were unable to move. And that thing which bound her was tightly squeezing her skin, making her feel a piercing pain. Ugh! It was another thing which seemed to embed into her bone marrow. Bai Mei gave a dull moan. She was in so much pain that her eyes were blurry as she stared at Yi Qing Luo. But she saw Yi Qing Luo holding the glower flame fan as her fingers flicked from time to time. Every time Yi Qing Luo's fingers moved slightly, Bai Mei could feel that the thing which bound her 4 limbs had turned into a sharp blade, cutting her bones. Suddenly, a dazzling light pierced her eyes. Bai Mei's eyes widened as she squinted her eyes. Following that dazzling light, her vision slowly shifted. This time she discovered the thing which bound her was not something else, but strands of silver threads that were as thin as black hair. There were at least 5 to 6 strands of silvery strands. They were shot out from the glower flame fan in Yi Qing Luo's hands. No matter what. You were once a master of the Heavenly Academy, as a student of the Academy. Naturally, I can't leave you in the lurch. I'll help you take down this face. Yi Qing Luo's clear voice was mixed with ridicule and laughter. Her fingers swept forward. Bai Mei clearly heard a swoosh sound in the air. Following that, she felt a cold touch on her face. It was silvery strands. Bai Mei's face turned pale instantly. Blood seeped out and stained the silvery strands on her face. How dare you? How dare you touch my face? Bai Mei's scarlet eyes were filled with resentment. Yi Qing Luo had no doubt that at this moment, the silver threads of the glower flame fan had not restrained Bai Mei. Bai Mei would definitely pounce on her and fight her hand to hand. Bai Mei had sacrificed too much for her young and beautiful face. She wanted to be young and beautiful. She wanted to obtain Dmo Xian's love because of this. How could she allow anyone to touch her face? Facing Bai Mei's hysterical madness, Yi Qing Luo remained calm and elegant as the corners of her lips twitched into a smile. Why wouldn't I dare? As for Bai Mei, she did not have the slightest bit of sympathy for a face. He was willing to abandon his dignity as someone from the upper world and join the Dark Ghost Palace, mixing with the motley crew of the Dark Ghost Palace. He had repeatedly caused trouble for her. Hurt her brother. Most importantly, she was really annoying. There was another woman who wanted her man. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with an icy chill. Her fingers moved, and the silver thread that was as sharp as a blade started to slowly cut open Bai Mei's face. Swoosh! Suddenly, a piece of black object flew towards Yi Qing Luo's hands. That momentum was extremely ferocious. It carried a strong and austere aura. Like a sudden clap of thunder, like a surging wave. Chapter 3056. Who is it? The 4 maids who were standing still on the 4 sides of the carriage suddenly rushed in front of Yi Qing Luo. These 4 maids had noticed Bai Mei's actions right from the start. They didn't make a move because of Yi Qing Luo's obstruction. They were clear that one Bai Mei was not Yi Qing Luo's opponent. But, this sudden burst of energy, it aroused their vigilance. One of the maids swiftly waved her palm to meet that irresistible force and split it apart. Ka, a slight sound was heard. That thing was split apart by the maid. It turned into a piece of drifting, as though it didn't have any lethality, and slowly floated downwards. Yi Qing Luo fixed her eyes on it. That was actually a piece of leaf. That's right, an ordinary piece of leaf which was split into 2. Yi Qing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. She had indeed heard that if the profound energy was strong enough, even water could be condensed into a sharp blade, taking a person's life. A piece of leaf as a hidden weapon. It wasn't impossible. But just how powerful could a person be? To be able to use a piece of leaf to create such a powerful energy? The speed of the spinning was extremely fast. She couldn't even tell that this was just a piece of leaf. If it wasn't for her body's instinctive reaction towards danger, there was a possibility that she wouldn't be able to avoid it. Who was this person? Why did he make a move on her? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly as she shifted her gaze away from the leaf. Sister, sister. Bai Mei's ecstatic voice suddenly rang. This roar could almost shake the entire Hell Palace. Bai Mei struggled to climb up from the ground as her eyes stared in that direction joyfully. Sister, you're here to save me. You're here to save me, right? Sister? These two words made Yiqing Luo's ears buzz for a moment. Her vision trembled. It wasn't that she didn't believe in Dmo Xian. She knew clearly that Dmo Xian and Bai Mei's sister had no ambiguous feelings between a man and a woman. But she heard Bai Mei showing off in the name of sister once or twice. It would be a lie to say that she didn't feel uncomfortable. At this moment, the sister, who heard Bai Mei's call, had really appeared. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with an indescribable complicated feeling. She pursed her pink lips slightly and looked in the direction that Bai Mei had gone in. This look made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. The domineering female boss that he had imagined did not appear in front of him. It was just a thin figure that seemed to have merged with the air, faintly discernible. Yiqing Luo, who had seen Old Man Song reveal his spiritual body, could tell at a glance that that frail figure was a spiritual body. Bai Mei's sister was a spiritual body? Why are you here? Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with doubts. Behind her came the man's low and hoarse voice. There was no emotion in that voice. But Yiqing Luo could tell. The man's voice was much gentler than before. In other words, was that spiritual body really Bai Mei's mysterious elder sister? Mei has caused you trouble. The voice of the spiritual body was very gentle. It was the kind of gentleness that was unique to Jiangnan women. It was very natural and definitely not intentional. Sister, you. How could you help them speak ill of me? Look at me now. That slut, not only did he snatch the overlord away from you, he even beat me up to this state and even wanted to cut my face. You have to help me take revenge. Chapter 3057. Her sister was here, not to back her up. Instead, she was speaking up for those who bullied her. How could Bai Mei accept this? Mei. The spiritual body's voice was very soft, as gentle as water. She called out Bai Mei's name, as her gaze shifted to Bai Mei's face. Yiqing Luo also saw the spiritual body's face clearly. That face was extremely beautiful. Elegant and refined, without a speck of dust. A pair of pure and gentle beautiful eyes stared at Bai Mei indifferently. Which made Bai Mei unable to say a single word. The spiritual body's lips curled as she spoke gently. The relationship between my sister and the Overlord has never been what you think. The Overlord has never belonged to me. She paused for a moment, as her gaze became increasingly gentle, like a warm spring breeze blowing against her. Even though the spiritual body's vision wasn't looking at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo could feel the warm breeze blowing against her. Following that, she heard the spiritual body's gentle voice ringing. Moreover, you've done something wrong, so being injured is a lesson for you. If you know pain, then think clearly where you've done wrong, then you will naturally not get injured again. Sister. Bai Mei pursed her lips tightly, totally disagreeing with her own sister's words, but she couldn't say a single word of rebuttal. When Yiqing Luo saw this, she couldn't help but have goosebumps. Bai Mei had an 18 or 19-year-old young lady's face. But in actual fact, she was already over 30 years old, and could be considered as an auntie. She even put on a delicate look, acting coquettishly towards her own sister. Didn't Bai Mei feel embarrassed? Or she had a young lady's face. Did she really treat herself as a young lady? To think that Bai Mei's sister could still maintain her gentle face, without any change in her emotions, facing her younger sister who was pretending to be young. If you still don't know where you've done wrong, then the injury on your body isn't considered serious. The spiritual body interrupted Bai Mei's words. I'm still not considered serious. Bai Mei's eyes turned red from anger, as resentment and anger spread in her pupils. That scoundrel wanted to ruin my face. wanted to cut my face, and even caused me to be seriously injured. Do you think that it will only be serious if I die? Bai Mei clenched her fists as tears welled up in her eyes. I know that for the sake of the Overlord, you can abandon me, your little sister. I've been alone for so many years, and I've endured it. It doesn't matter if I have you as my sister or not. Mei, The spirit body's gentle voice revealed a hint of choking. Her voice trembled as she stared at Bai Mei, her eyes filled with grief and helplessness. Bai Mei closed her eyes, as if she was suppressing the emotions in her heart. Then, she suddenly opened her eyes, turned around, and walked in the opposite direction of the spiritual body. You abandoned me for the Overlord. Now, to please the Overlord, you don't even care about your sister's life. So, it's my turn to abandon you. It's my turn to abandon you. Bai Mei's turn was swift and decisive. Yiqing Luo stood at the angle of the carriage. Coincidentally, he saw the expression on Bai Mei's face when she turned around. Obviously, Bai Mei's words were sonorous and forceful, with righteous words. Her tone was choked with sobs, as if she couldn't bear to part with it. But on Bai Mei's face, there wasn't a single bit of reduced heartache expression. On the contrary, her eyes were slightly raised, filled with ridicule and sarcasm. Chapter 3058. Obviously, Bai Mei's sudden, crying scene was deliberately poking at her sister's most guilty spot. It was to evoke his sister's guilt. Thus, he could avenge her. Yiqing Luo scoffed. This Bai Mei had even schemed against her own sister. He wondered just how shameless she was. That was why she was able to use her sister's name to show off in front of Dmo Xian. However, Yiqing Luo saw through Bai Mei's little scheme. However, after hearing Bai Mei's words, Bai Mei's elder sister, the spiritual body, revealed a look of grief that could not be dispelled. She pursed her pale lips and looked at Bai Mei's back as she left. Her elegant and refined face was shrouded in melancholy. His body also seemed to be fusing with the air, becoming increasingly transparent. Mei, that's not what Big Sister meant. The spirit body hurriedly said, full of worry. Big Sister knows, it's Big Sister who shouldn't, before he could finish his words. But she was interrupted by a deep voice, Baisu. That voice forcefully stopped the spirit body from speaking. The spiritual body speedily turned around and its eyes, which were stained with tears, looked at Dmo Xian. What are you doing here? Dmo Xian frowned. The spiritual body, which was Baisu, had a slight change in her gentle expression. Very soon, she became gentle again and looked at Dmo Xian with her watery eyes. Dmo Xian, I'm just worried about my sister. She's not a bad person by nature. Dmo Xian's frown deepened as his lips twitched. Yiqing Luo, looking at this spiritual body called Baisu, talking to Dmo Xian so gently, why did she have a very strange feeling? This feeling was completely different from the previous uncomfortable feeling. For some reason, he felt that Baisu was not as gentle as she looked. Dmo Xian's obstruction. All the plans of Bai Mei, who had been snickering in her heart and waiting for Baisu to coax her, were disrupted. In the direction that Bai Mei was heading. It was the direction of the Underworld Palace's group. If she continued to walk forward, she would be delivering herself into the hands of the people from the Underworld Palace. If she retreated, didn't his performance in front of Baisu go to waste? Bai Mei's face was ferocious. She gritted her teeth and cursed Baisu in her heart. How dare you say that I'm not an admirer of His Majesty? Once His Majesty has spoken, even my sister has given up trying to persuade her. It was at this moment. The people from the Underworld Palace suddenly exchanged glances with one another. Then, they leaped at the same time. Bai Mei was originally injured because of Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, he was surrounded by a group of stinky old men. His hands, which hadn't been washed for a long time, were clasping her limbs. Ah! Bai Mei let out a shriek. It was a scream. It immediately attracted the attention of Dmo Xian and Baisu. Baisu stared at Bai Mei for a long while. Bai Mei screamed and wailed, "Sister, sister, save me." Only then did Baisu's gentle and beautiful eyes move slowly. Her spirit body quickly floated forward and said worriedly, "Mei, don't be afraid. I'm here." The surrounding Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo expressed that she really couldn't understand this woman called Baisu. If Baisu was really as worried about Bai Mei as she appeared to be, she could totally take action. Chapter 3059. As long as Baisu made a move, those lunatics from Hell Palace would not be able to use Bai Mei to threaten her. But Baisu did not make a move. She was like a delicate white lotus, her eyes and mouth full of worry, expressing her concern for Bai Mei. Baisu's attitude. This made the two men from Hell Palace who were restraining Bai Mei to reveal a joyful expression. It looked like they had caught the right person. With this thought in mind, the men from Hell Palace tightened their grip on Bai Mei and even drew out a dagger and pressed it against Bai Mei's neck. All of you leave Hell Palace, otherwise I will kill this woman." The men from Hell Palace had already grasped onto the last straw, staking everything on this one throw. Originally they wanted to use a sneak attack to restrain Dmo Xian. Unexpectedly, Dmo Xian's power had already reached an unfathomable level. They would never be Dmo Xian's opponent. Moreover, there was another spiritual lady with unfathomable power. How were they going to protect Hell Palace? Although, the woman in their hands seemed to have some conflict with the Overlord's woman. But she was the younger sister of another spiritual lady. If they could make use of this woman in their hands to incite the spiritual lady and the Overlord to kill each other, they would be able to reap the benefits of the third party. With this thought in mind, the expressions on the men from Hell Palace became more and more sinister. "Quick! Leave Hell Palace, bring your men and leave immediately." Baisu's eyes were filled with tears, her little hands clenched tightly as she trembled. You can't hurt my sister. Sister, save me. I don't want to die, I don't want to die." Bai Mei felt the blade on her neck almost cutting through her skin as she cried out for help in fright. Baisu was also very anxious, her eyes were red as her spiritual body floated around in the air with an anxious look. "Sister will save you, don't be afraid, I only have you as my sister, I will never let you die." Her words made the eyes of the men from Hell Palace suddenly lit up. They were even more certain that this woman in their hands was enough to threaten the Overlord and that spiritual lady. "It's not impossible for us to let this young lady go." Hell Palace's men shot a glance at the gloomy-looking Dmo Xian. As long as you stop the Overlord, I'll let her go." Baisu's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. She turned her head and looked at Dmo Xian behind her as her lips trembled. "Overlord." Yiqing Luo seemed to see Dmo Xian's lips twitching even more violently. Baisu covered her face with her hands and continued to speak in a voice as gentle as water, with a hint of eagerness and helplessness. "Di Zun. Can you?" "No." Dmo Xian interrupted Baisu's words without any hesitation, as his face was expressionless. The people from Hell Palace, since they dared to provoke this lord's woman, then they should pay the price for their actions. Baisu paused and looked at Bai Mei worriedly, and then immediately looked at Dmo Xian. She clasped her hands together, looking like a worried white lotus. "All right. Good. Since the Overlord doesn't want to keep this woman alive, I'll kill her." Hell Palace's men saw the hesitation in Baisu's heart and wanted to provoke Baisu, so they increased the strength of the dagger in their hands. Blood seeped out from Bai Mei's neck and dyed the sharp dagger red. Chapter 3060. Baisu's slender body froze. She blinked her eyes and tears welled up in her eyes, but they did not fall. She choked with sobs. "How can I bear to see you die? You are my only sister. Mei, I will save you. I will not let you die." Bai Mei felt a stabbing pain in her neck, and the feeling of blood flowing out made her face feel itchy and painful. This tormented Bai Mei so much that she wanted to reach out and grab it. But she had just raised her hands. The people from the Hell Palace pressed her down hard. She was so itchy that her whole body was writhing. She was in so much pain that she drew in a cold breath. Bai Mei even felt that her face was about to break away from her face. This realization made Bai Mei widen her eyes. Her facial features twisted as she gnashed her teeth and cursed Baisu. She had given up everything in exchange for this face. She must not lose this face. This face belonged to her. Even if she had to die, it could only belong to her. Bai Mei's crazy and ferocious actions made the people from the Hell Palace unable to hold her down. The people from the Hell Palace had already suffered today's encounter. In a short while, the 3 leaders of the Hell Palace had been tortured into a ball of flesh and blood. And they had been arrogantly bullied by Dmo Xian in their territory. They had been suppressing their anger for a long time. Now Bai Mei was still trying to break away from their control. The people from the Hell Palace had a vicious look in their eyes. They directly waved the dagger in their hands and pinned Bai Mei's hands on the rock wall. Ah! Bai Mei screamed. The dagger pierced through her wrists and went straight into the rock wall. The sharp pain almost made her faint. The loss of blood made the skin on her face itch and hurt. She felt like her face was being torn apart, and the skin that she wanted to get rid of surged even more. Mei, Baisu exclaimed. Her gentle voice was trembling. The Dmo Xian wants to settle the score with you. What's the use of venting your anger on my sister? Or do you think that by torturing my sister, you are helping the Dmo Xian's woman solve unnecessary trouble? Are you trying to plead with the Dmo Xian's woman? No, let me tell you, this is absolutely impossible. The people from the Hell Palace, this idea seemed to be not bad. The Dmo Xian's woman was not on good terms with this woman. If they killed this woman for Di Zun's woman, they could use this opportunity to plead with Di Zun's woman. In the carriage, Yiqing Luo who was receiving all the naked gazes. Why did she get dragged into this for no reason again? Did Baisu really want to save Bai Mei? Why did she feel that Baisu was purposely reminding the people from the Hell Palace? Yiqing Luo expressed, he had originally thought that this woman might be a love rival. Then, he added the White Lotus attribute. She would have to fight for at least 300 rounds. But why? She felt that this woman, who was a rival in love, was so likable. Madam, the reason why the Underworld Palace injured Madam is because we didn't know that those bastards from the Palace of Darkness had schemed against us. Now, Lord Hell has been crippled, and Lang Yen has also become a cripple. Madam, please be magnanimous and spare Hell Palace this time. Hell Palace is willing to owe Madam a favor. Hell Palace's people were indeed very tactful as they immediately started to plead for leniency towards Yiqing Luo. Chapter 3061. Yiqing Luo, they had obviously come to settle the score with the Underworld Palace and take revenge. Why did it feel like the direction was getting more and more crooked? Her eyes twitched as she looked at Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's expression was also very ugly, as his shimmering peach blossom eyes were surging with undercurrents. He looked at Baisu with his dark and deep eyes and frowned slightly, as if he was very dissatisfied with Baisu. Very quickly, he detected Yiqing Luo's line of sight. He shifted his gaze towards the carriage. Through the veil, their eyes met. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at the people from Hell Palace as she mouthed, "What do you think we should do?" Her lips had just stopped moving. The veil fluttered, and a gentle current of air blew over. It was as if a man's large palm was caressing her face. Beside her ears, the man's deep and husky voice was mixed, "Everything is up to you." His voice fell. The gentle airflow dissipated in the air. However, the gentle touch on her cheek, as well as the elegant sandalwood scent, still lingered on her face and nose. Dmo Xian brought her to the Underworld Palace, prepared to let her settle the debt properly. It was considered as killing the chicken to warn the monkey, informing everyone that he, Dmo Xian, had a woman whom he regarded as a treasure. But Dmo Xian probably did not expect it. Bai Mei, who was supposed to have died on the battlefield of the Miao tribe, was still alive. She had even followed them to the Underworld Palace and caused so much trouble. Messed up all their plans. It wasn't just the historian of balance who was rushing over. Even the mysterious elder sister that Bai Mei had mentioned appeared in the form of a spirit. At present, Yiqing Luo couldn't feel whether Bai Su was a friend or foe to her. But what Yiqing Luo could confirm was, the relationship between Bai Su and Dmo Xian was extraordinary. However, she did not understand Bai Su's attitude towards Bai Mei. If Bai Su really loved Bai Mei, naturally, she would not really take Bai Mei's life. Although she didn't really like Bai Su. But he didn't hate it. She would never lay her hands on Bai Mei just because of the relationship between Bai Su and Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian said that everything was up to her. In other words, he was telling her that it didn't matter if she wanted the people of the Underworld Palace to kill Bai Mei or if she wanted to take revenge on the people of the Underworld Palace. He would clean up the mess. There was no need to care about anyone else's thoughts and opinions. Having said that, however, she really could not bring herself to cause conflict between Dmo Xian and Bai Su because of Bai Mei. He pondered for a while. Yiqing Luo made a decision in her heart. She raised her head and looked at the people from the Underworld Palace. The moment she opened her mouth, she forcefully closed it again. Because, she did not need to worry about whether she should save Bai Mei's life from the hands of the people from the Underworld Palace. Just as she was deep in thought, the people from the Underworld Palace took her silence as a tacit agreement. Without any hesitation, he nailed Bai Mei to the wall. Endless fresh blood slid down the rock wall. Yiqing Luo, was there a need to be so savage? The few people from Hell Palace were still trying to claim credit, as they begged for Yiqing Luo's forgiveness. Yiqing Luo turned her head stiffly as she looked at Bai Su expressionlessly. I'm sorry, no matter if you believe it or not, I didn't want them to kill Bai Mei. I don't blame you. Bai Su's spiritual body suddenly floated back to Dmo Xian's side. These 4 words, when Yiqing Luo heard it, why did she feel that something was amiss? Wait a minute. Chapter 3062. Bai Su's spiritual body floated out of the carriage. There was a barrier between them. At this distance, Bai Su could see the girl's stunned expression behind the gauze curtain. Bai Su raised her eyebrows and smiled. Don't look at me like that, I will think that you have a crush on me. Saying that, she shifted her gaze towards Dmo Xian. If Dmo Xian knows that I have seduced his beloved woman, he will kill me. Yiqing Luo. Why did the scene suddenly change? At this moment, Bai Su's face was no longer as gentle as water, like a white lotus. Obviously, it was the same face, the same style. But her temperament had undergone an earth-shaking change. At this moment, the spiritual body standing in front of Yiqing Luo, that originally elegant and refined face exuded an extremely flamboyant sense of beauty. It had a charm that made people unable to look away. In addition, Bai Su's flamboyant and domineering eyes were full of aura. There were only 4 words left in Yiqing Luo's mind: Queen. Don't doubt me, I am Bai Mei's elder sister, the woman behind Dmo Xian. Bai Su brushed her hair. Yiqing Luo. What the hell was woman behind? Bai Mei has been with me since she was born. I was the one who personally brought her up. In her heart, her older sister is a gentle person who emits motherly love. So, for the sake of my pitiful younger sister, I must maintain this image in front of her. Bai Su shrugged and explained helplessly. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. For Bai Mei, she disguised herself as a white lotus? Since she loved Bai Mei so much. Bai Mei was nailed to the rock wall, but as her elder sister, not only did she not show any sadness, she even had the mood to joke with her. I have a lot of things to do, I don't have time to teach her how to behave, so, she became like this. Bai Su glanced at Bai Mei, who was still bleeding and nailed to the wall. As long as she's still alive, I don't care how you torture her. Yiqing Luo, this elder sister, was really speechless. Wait a minute. Just now, Bai Su said, as long as Bai Mei was alive, she could torture her however she wanted. In other words, Bai Mei was not dead? Bai Su. Dmo Xian strode over and glanced at Bai Su coldly. Take her away, don't be an eyesore. She was referring to Bai Mei. Baisu spread out her hands. Her gorgeous face and imposing manner were not inferior to Dmo Xian at all. Dmo Xian boy, did you think that I came all the way here and took the risk to send my spiritual body to the earth realm just to save my poor sister? Dmo Xian glanced sideways and looked at her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. It seemed to be asking, otherwise? Baisu snorted and rolled her eyes. She doesn't have enough power to make me come all the way to the earthly realm to save her. His tone was filled with disdain. Yi Qing Luo really didn't feel that. Baisu liked her sister. Dmo Xian was expressionless as he lightly said, "Speak." TSK. In front of your little beauty, you're even more docile than little Nine. Why is it that when you see me, you're so cold and heartless? Baisu touched her face with her fingers and said, "Don't tell me. I'm not as beautiful as your little beauty." Chapter 3063. Baisu's teasing smile froze on her face. Immediately, a layer of anger covered her face bit by bit. She went berserk and raised her palm towards Dmo Xian's direction. "Brat. I dare you to say these 3 words again. Even in the enchantment." Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel it. That palm of Baisu was really merciless. Bringing along the raging waves, it was totally going to swallow Dmo Xian completely within the rhythm. Dmo Xian didn't move away, nor did he have the slightest intention to counterattack. Until that palm fell head-on and covered Dmo Xian within it. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows knitted slightly as she suddenly got up from the soft chair. She raised her hand and her slender fingers rested on the gauze curtain as she was about to walk out of the carriage. One of the maids swayed and used her hand to stop her movement. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted even tighter as her charming eyes turned icy cold as she looked at the maid. Suddenly, a purple light in front of her attracted her attention. The palm wind dispersed and Dmo Xian's tall figure appeared in front of Yi Qing Luo. Dmo Xian's body was surrounded by a layer of faint purple light. His eyes were calm as he waved his sleeves. The purple light on his body and the profound energy surrounding him dispersed in an instant. "Speak quickly, don't disturb me." Dmo Xian frowned slightly impatiently. After that, he turned his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo. He seemed to sense that Yi Qing Luo wanted to walk out of the carriage. His thin lips curled up as he shook his head at her slowly. His thin lips moved as he spat out 2 words, "Wait for me." Seeing that Dmo Xian was safe and sound, Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Her line of sight had been lingering on Dmo Xian and Baisu. She was imagining the relationship between the 2 of them. Baisu's expression was icy cold as her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Apparently, she was still annoyed by those 3 words from Dmo Xian. Hence, she put on a straight face and said dryly, "The matter you asked me to investigate has some progress. Also, Qingwu also brought me a few pieces of news, and asked me to inform your little beauty." Qingwu? Jun Qingwu? Yi Qing Luo heard this name and immediately asked, "What news did little Qingwu ask you to bring me?" Ever since Tenyu Palace appeared, he had sensed that something was wrong with it. Jun Qingwu specially went to the upper realm to investigate the people behind the Palace of Darkness. After investigating for such a long time, Jun Qingwu had yet to return. She was still thinking of finding an opportunity to inquire about Jun Qingwu's news from Dmo Xian. You guessed it right. The people behind the Palace of Darkness are indeed from the upper realm. Baisu did not beat around the bush and said directly, "It's just that we don't know who that person is, but we can be sure that there are already many forces from the upper realm joining the Palace of Darkness." Baisu paused and looked at Dmo Xian, which is to say, Palace of Darkness wants to replace the Imperial Palace's position in Nirvana Realm. In the eyes of the people from the upper realm, isn't the Nirvana Realm a lowly existence? Why would they be interested in the lower realm's powerhouses? Yi Qing Luo asked puzzledly when she heard that. As for this, we can't find anything at the moment. The person behind this is hiding too well. Baisu shook her head, narrowed her beautiful eyes, and guessed, perhaps, because the young Di Zun is in the Nirvana Realm, those people think that there is something special about the Nirvana realm? This explanation. To tell the truth, it sounded like it made a little sense. But, it was really too far-fetched. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips and closed her eyes as she quickly replayed all the recent actions of the Palace of Darkness in the Nirvana realm in her mind. Chapter 3064. I remember, the Dark Forces wanted to invade the West Continent. It was to use the West Continent as a base for their own development. Yiqing Luo looked at Dmo Xian, Palace of Darkness. I'm afraid it's also the same idea. Palace of Darkness wants to invade Nirvana realm? Bai Su understood the deeper meaning behind her words and asked in surprise. To put it bluntly, even if the 4 continents joined forces, they are not a match for a city in the Earth realm. The person behind the scenes of Palace of Darkness is an extremely powerful person in the upper realm. Why would they take the risk of disrupting the balance of the lower realm and be targeted by the main god to invade Nirvana realm? Bai Su analyzed and shook her head. I feel that your guess is wrong. If the people from the upper realm are really not interested in Nirvana realm, then they wouldn't keep appearing in the lower realm. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and said solemnly, according to Xiao Qingwu and Miss Bai's investigation, it can be confirmed that the person behind the scenes of Palace of Darkness is an influential person in the upper realm. If it's really like what you think, the people from the upper realm look down on the lower realm. Why would the person behind the scenes spend so much effort to control the development of Palace of Darkness? Bai Su was stunned. Yiqing Luo said, what's more obvious is the Dark Forces. I've crossed hands with the Dark Forces and I'm very clear of their character. Their Dark Forces were once a small force outside of the 4 realms and had their own kingdom. But now, they willingly joined the Palace of Darkness and became a subsidiary force of the Palace of Darkness, obeying the orders and arrangements of the Palace of Darkness. Among them, either the people from Palace of Darkness promised the Dark Forces something which was more tempting than having their own kingdom. Or the Dark Forces and Palace of Darkness have the same goal. This point, right from the start, Yiqing Luo had this feeling. With the same goal and the same enemy, joining forces was the best solution. Yiqing Luo said, Palace of Darkness's ambition is huge and not what we see now. Moreover, I feel that there's another reason why Palace of Darkness started from Nirvana realm and slowly developed their own forces. But I'm still unable to verify it. Bai Su's gaze swept past Yiqing Luo's wrist. What you mean is, Nirvana realm has something that Palace of Darkness wants. Invading the Nirvana realm and developing your forces is just a superficial reason. Yiqing Luo, she instinctively pulled back the hand that was wearing the Azure Dew bracelet. Why did he feel that Bai Su seemed to be hinting at something? Somehow, he felt like he was emphasizing. There was something on her that the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness wanted. Could it be that Bai Su recognized the Azure Dew bracelet? Now that you've delivered the message, get lost. Dmo Xian's cold voice interrupted Bai Su's question. Bai Su rolled her eyes and said, I came all the way here. Even my poor sister is dying because of you. Do you want to dismiss me like this? Dmo Xian squinted at Bai Su with his emotionless eyes. Bai Su's smile was unparalleled. She was completely unafraid of Dmo Xian's cold face. Yiqing Luo, who was in the carriage, was speechless when she heard Bai Su's flippant tone. What she could be sure of now was, the relationship between Bai Su and Dmo Xian was definitely very close. Their relationship was even closer than that of the Imperial Palace's granny. Chapter 3065. To be able to maintain a smiling face under Dmo Xian's expressionless gaze. Except for her. Perhaps only Bai Su could do that. Even the Imperial Palace's old granny would be cautious when interacting with Dmo Xian. It could be seen that the relationship between Bai Su and Dmo Xian was better than she had imagined. What else do you want? Dmo Xian frowned slightly. The balance historian will be here soon. Bai Su raised her brows disapprovingly. So be it. What else can they do to me? After that, she looked into Dmo Xian's icy cold peach blossom eyes, and the smile on her face deepened. Dmo Xian brat, you are in such a hurry to drive me away, it can be seen that. You are very clear about what I want to do. Dmo Xian's brows furrowed even tighter. His peach blossom eyes were also suffused with a deep cold light. Baisu covered her mouth and giggled, "Don't worry, we have cooperated for so many years. How can I tear down your stage at this time, after all? We are on the same boat." Baisu deliberately lowered her voice when she said the last sentence. Using a deliberately seductive voice, she opened her mouth gently. The voice was very soft. But it was also within the range where Yiqing Luo could hear. These words simply couldn't be more ambiguous. Yiqing Luo couldn't help twitching her eyes as she listened by the side. She felt that as the Empress of Dmo Xian. Shouldn't she express something? Declare sovereignty or something? But, listening to Baisu's deliberate words, it was obvious that she deliberately wanted to provoke her reaction. Or wanted to tease Dmo Xian? Sure enough. Just when Yiqing Luo's mind was filled with all kinds of thoughts, Dmo Xian's expression suddenly darkened and turned ugly by several degrees. That pair of deep and cold peach blossom eyes was also covered with a layer of coldness. "Do you want me to send you back personally?" His voice was icy cold. Baisu's teasing smile froze at the corner of her mouth, and her lips twitched. "Sure enough, having a wife is different. Now you can't even make a joke. Are you so afraid that your little beauty will be jealous?" While saying that, she threw a coquettish look at Yiqing Luo's direction. "Little beauty, are you jealous?" Yiqing Luo indicated that she didn't want to bother with her. Dmo Xian knitted his brows tightly and said word by word, "Bai-Su." Baisu raised her hands and said, "Okay, I'll go back now," before he finished his words. Suddenly, cries of alarm rang out from the surroundings. The people from the underworld palace began to shout in panic. This sudden change made Baisu and the others quickly look in the direction of the voice. At this moment, the dozen or so people from the underworld palace were pointing at a spot on the wall in fear. Their bodies were shivering. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and through the veil, she saw the direction which they were pointing at. It was Bai Mei, who was pinned to the rock wall. The dark green candle flame flickered, elongating Bai Mei's silhouette. The green candlelight shone on the girl's stiff body. It was also clear, it reflected the shocking scene in front of them. The dark green candlelight on the rock wall gathered in Bai Mei's direction one by one. The endless green light seemed to form a green barrier that covered the young girl's body. No, to be more precise. His face, Bai Mei's face, seemed to be rotting gradually. Pieces of flesh started to fall off from Bai Mei's face. Bai Mei's face, using the words, "too horrible to look at, badly mutilated," was not enough to describe her terrible state. Even Yiqing Luo, who was used to seeing blood. Chapter 3066. But it was merely the numbing of her scalp. For this bunch of lunatics from Hell Palace, they themselves were bloody and brutal perverts, so they should have been used to this kind of scenario. Why did Hell Palace's people not care about their image as they cried out in terror, their faces filled with terror? This question Yiqing Luo didn't have the chance to ask. Everyone's attention was focused on Bai Mei at this moment. In just the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Bai Mei's badly mutilated face slowly peeled off from her face under the dim green candlelight. At the instant when the skin on her face peeled off, that bloody face was swiftly shrouded by the dim green candlelight. In a split second, the entire Hell Palace was engulfed by a gust of chilly air. That chilly air carried a bone-piercing chill, so strange that it made one's hair stand on end. Hell Palace's people retreated backwards in fear as they tried to escape. But they had just taken a step. A gust of dim green air wave blocked their way. When this air wave appeared, Hell Palace's people's faces turned deathly pale. Hell Palace's people's attitude made Yiqing Luo creased her brows. Her gaze kept lingering on those candles. Apparently, Bai Mei's change, as well as the skin peeling off from her face, were all caused by these strange candles. Ever since she entered Hell Palace and saw these candles, she had an extremely uncomfortable feeling. Somehow, she felt that these dim green candlelight were extremely horrifying. Yiqing Luo finally fixed her gaze on one of Hell Palace's people. Those candles. What are they made of? That Hell Palace's people who were pointed out hugged their heads as they shook their heads furiously. Their faces were filled with terror, unable to say a single word. This confirmed Yiqing Luo's guess. These are all ghost flame candles. Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo as he spoke calmly. Ghost flame candles? Yiqing Luo was unfamiliar with this name. Ghost flame candles? Bai Su crossed her hands as she rubbed her arms. No wonder I sensed such a dense evil qi the minute I entered. So, these candles are actually ghost flame candles. Bai Su saw Yiqing Luo's puzzled expression as her spiritual body suddenly stuck towards the direction of the rock wall. Then, he stretched out his hand. The transparent finger was embedded in a candle flame just like that. Bai Su tugged hard and threw the candle into Yiqing Luo's arms with a look of disgust, while explaining, the ghost flame candle is a person's life force, the candle flame that is ignited. In the end, the candle was caught by the maidservant outside the sedan with her bare hands. She held the maid's hand. Yiqing Luo took a closer look at that candle. When the will-o-wisp candle was on the wall, other than the strange flame, it looked like a normal candle. However, when it fell into the hands of the maidservant, the candle was extremely sticky. It was like a puddle of green goo that formed a candle. Even if he was thrown into the hands of the maidservant, the candlelight was still burning. The dark green candle flame blended with the green liquid. No matter how one looked at it, it was disgusting. Yiqing Luo also saw it clearly. The place where the candlelight was burning was in the shape of a human bone, ghastly white. The dark green light came from the holes in the mouth, eyes, and nose that were shaped like white bones, which were burning. Up close. Chapter 3067. The one who created this kind of ghost fire candle didn't use corpses but living people. Bai Su's tone turned gloomy when she said this. Making use of living people's desires, using a special method to turn them into candles, then using a special method to extract their life essence, to form the candle flame. Bai Su's explanation was very simple and left out a lot of details. However, anyone could hear the bloodiness and brutality in it. Turning living people into candles. Using human life essence to form candle flame. How sinister was this to be able to do it? Ever since they entered the Hell Palace, there were at least 200 to 300 ghost fire candles. And this was only half of the journey to the Hell Palace. Hell Palace's bunch of lunatics. Really cruel to the extreme. We didn't want to. The Hell Palace's people could feel Yiqing Luo's icy cold gaze through the veil as they were so frightened that they started wailing. This is all the idea of the Palace of Darkness. We were all schemed by the Palace of Darkness. The Hell Palace's people had the intention to destroy the Palace of Darkness. Mentioning the Palace of Darkness, Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. This ghost fire candle and the Palace of Darkness were related? Probably because their hearts were already corroded by the fear. Yiqing Luo's tone only increased slightly. The Hell Palace's people then explained the entire sequence of events while wailing. Their Hell Palace implemented the policy that everyone could become the Lord of Hell. Every month, they would carry out a change of the Lord of Hell. And not long ago, it was an important day to change the Lord of Hell. On the day when the elected Lord of Hell became the Lord of Hell, in order to express his generosity after becoming the Lord of Hell, he left the Hell Palace to buy some food and drinks to celebrate. This trip, he didn't return for a day. The Hell Palace's people found the Lord of Hell who was covered in blood and on his last breath at the back mountain of the Hell Palace. The Hell Palace's people were instantly infuriated. Their Lord of Hell had just become the Lord of Hell. And he was ambushed. If they were any later, the Lord of Hell would have died here. Wasn't this a blatant challenge to their Hell Palace's authority? But no matter how angry they were, the Hell Palace's people didn't manage to find out who was the one who injured the Lord of Hell. Lord Hell's injuries were simply too severe, and he was about to die. Suddenly, a person who claimed to be Yuhan came and said that she had a way to save Lord Hell. The people from the underworld palace were also desperate. Seeing that Yuhan was alone, young and weak, he agreed to it. Yuhan had used the Ghostfire candle to save Lord Hell. Not only was he saved, but Lord Hell's strength had also increased greatly after he woke up the next day. Such a strange thing. How could the people of the underworld palace, who had always pursued strength, let go of this opportunity? Thus, they formed a group to look for Yuhan. After obtaining the method to make the will-o-wisp candle from Yuhan, he followed Yuhan's instructions and placed the will-o-wisp candle on the walls of the underworld palace as a source of illumination. The people from the underworld palace had tasted the sweetness of victory. Towards the ghost flame candle, he became more and more enthusiastic. More and more will-o-the-wisp candles were produced. Hearing Hell Palace's people's words, Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. Yuhan? Yuhan? Ghost hand, will you again? Chapter 3068. Mentioning this, Hell Palace's people's expressions all had slight changes. Following that, they looked at each other, their faces filled with a dilemma. After hesitating for some time, Hell Palace's people then opened their mouths. Ghostfire candle. Indeed can increase our ability, but Ghostfire candle is made from a living person's resentment and vitality. The resentment is extremely strong, and if we're not careful, there's a possibility of being swallowed by Ghostfire candle, becoming its food. When Hell Palace's people reached this point, their voices were slightly trembling. It could be seen that towards the unstable factor of Ghostfire candle, they were fearful from the bottom of their hearts. That Lord Hell from before. Had he been swallowed by Ghostfire candle? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she asked her next guess. The people from the underworld palace immediately turned their gazes toward the direction of the sedan. You? How did you know? Indeed, that Lord Hell who had been saved by Yuhan and whose ability had increased greatly, had already been swallowed by Ghostfire candle. They had personally witnessed Ghostfire candle swallowing the former Lord Hell bit by bit in the dark green candle flame. How I know isn't important. What's important is, when did you discover that Ghostfire candle would swallow you? Yi Qing Luo continued to ask. Hell Palace's people's expressions congealed as they hesitated for a moment. Silence started to spread in Hell Palace. Yi Qing Luo didn't rush them. Only calmly and indifferently, waiting for Hell Palace's people's reply. In the entire Hell Palace, there was only Bai Mei's painful moans from the candle flame tearing her face and the hissing sound of the candle flame burning. There were no other sounds. Under this oppressive atmosphere, one of Hell Palace's people suddenly threw down the weapon in his hand as he cried out sharply, "We've obviously been schemed against by the Palace of Darkness. That damned Palace of Darkness, they even dare to scheme against us." That man raised his head as his gaze was filled with madness. The former Lord Hell, he was swallowed by Ghostfire candle 3 days ago. 3 days ago, he was swallowed by Ghostfire candle. When he said the last sentence, that man seemed to be gritting his teeth as every single word came out from the slits of his teeth. His hands clenched tightly into fists. That person called Yuhan said she came from Palace of Darkness. Furthermore, he had come on behalf of the Palace Master of Gloomy Palace to help the Underworld Palace. In exchange, the Underworld Palace must unconditionally agree to do one thing for the Palace of Darkness. For Hell Palace. They had done all kinds of atrocious things. He had personally witnessed the power of the will-o-wisp candle on the former Lord of Hell. Naturally, they agreed without hesitation. Yuhan, who was sent by the Palace of Gloom, had saved Lord Hell of the Underworld Palace at that time. She had also given Underworld Palace the method to raise their strength. To the Underworld Palace, this was indeed a great favor. A few days ago, Yuhan came to us and asked us to use the space explosion sorcery to devour a space in the mortal world. We agreed to it as a way to repay the favor to the Palace of Darkness. We didn't know that the people from the Palace of Darkness wanted to deal with you, madam, I don't know that the Lord Dizun is in the space that the Dark Abyss Palace wants us to swallow. The people from the Palace of Darkness didn't tell us anything. They only said that someone from the Miao tribe offended the second palace master of the Palace of Darkness and wanted to teach the Miao tribe a lesson. Everyone from the Underworld Palace looked at Xia Ba and Lang Yen, who were lying on the ground. Chapter 3069. That bunch of grandsons from the Palace of Darkness. Not only did they want to get someone else to do their dirty work, they even lied to us. That person from Hell Palace was filled with hatred as he spoke. Ghost Fire Candle. That was a scheme of the Palace of Darkness. We created thousands of ghost fire candles, and after lighting them up around the surroundings of Hell Palace, the entire Hell Palace was enveloped by it. Once these candles were lit up, there was no way to extinguish them. Initially, these Yin Qi were able to increase our abilities, but later on, the Yin Qi became more and more intense, as though it had suppressed our powers. Hell Palace's people were filled with hatred and fear as they looked at that side, at the scene where the candles covered Bai Mei. What happened to the previous Lord of Hell? Yi Qing Luo asked again. Because this month's Lord of Hell's position was taken by Xia Ba while the previous Lord of Hell was in closed-door cultivation, to snatch the position. The previous Lord of Hell was thinking of snatching back this position. So. Hearing the Hell Palace's people stuttering, Yi Qing Luo's brows rose, so that previous Lord of Hell increased the absorption of the Yin Qi from the Ghost Fire Candle, causing the Yin Qi to corrode his body and later being swallowed by the Ghost Fire Candle. Am I right? Hell Palace's people lowered their heads, tacitly agreeing with Yi Qing Luo's words. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. No wonder Xia Ba and Lang Yen seemed much more relaxed after they were carried into Hell Palace. They were probably planning to absorb the Ghost Fire Candle's energy to launch a huge counterattack. No wonder Old Lai and the rest of Hell Palace's people were able to swiftly recover their energy under the circumstances where they were seriously injured. And they were able to raise their battle power in a short period of time. All these were made use of the Ghost Fire Candle's energy. In this way, it made sense. Towards the cause and effect of the Hell Manor, Yi Qing Luo had more or less guessed it. She might as well not bother to continue asking. She shifted her gaze onto Bai Mei. In her heart, she faintly had a new guess. Over at the Palace of Darkness, they had always liked to play some tricks in the dark. They looked for Hell Palace, absolutely not just to make use of Hell Palace's hands to kill DMO Xian and her. After all, if something really happened to DMO Xian and the Miao tribe, on the Imperial Palace's side, or the powerhouse behind DMO Xian, if they wanted to seek revenge for DMO Xian, it was very easy to find out that it was the Dark Nether Palace. Therefore, getting someone else to do the dirty work might just be a superficial reason. In fact, there was another reason. This reason, it was very likely that it had something to do with the human skin that Bai Mei had changed into. She looked at the face that had completely separated from Bai Mei's. In Yi Qing Luo's heart, there was a very ominous premonition. He had a feeling that this person's face was going to stir up trouble again. As expected. Just as this thought surfaced in Yi Qing Luo's mind, all of a sudden, Bai Mei let out a miserable shriek. Soon after, his body softly slid down the rock wall. Fresh blood permeated her entire body. It dyed her white chiffon dress red. When Bai Mei slid to the ground, she did not ask for help from her sister. Instead, he raised his hands, wanting to touch his face, but not daring to do so. My face. This is my face. You can't take my face away, she cried hoarsely, filled with despair. Chapter 3070. To Bai Mei. Losing that face was even more terrible than death. She would rather die. She wasn't willing to lose her face. Bai Mei screamed in pain as her hands finally pressed on her face. Not sure if it was because of the flesh and blood on her hands or because of the pain, Bai Mei screamed as she seemed to have lost all her strength and fell to the ground. Everyone's attention was not on Bai Mei. Instead, they were staring at the human face which was shrouded in countless green candlelight. That human face was not stained with a drop of blood after it fell off Bai Mei's face. This is... Bai Su stared at the human face as she frowned. What a heavy yin qi, oh, as expected. Dmo Xian's eyes were deep and bottomless. The words that came out of his mouth were extremely light. But in the ears, it was filled with a dignified and cold temperament which made one's heart skip a beat. Bai Su looked sideways at him. What do you know? Don't keep me guessing. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes looked up at that human face as his lips curled into an unfathomable smile. Bai Su was anxious as she urged, why are you still acting mysterious? Can't you tell me what you know? The real motive of the Palace of Darkness is not to kill with a borrowed knife. Just at this moment, a young lady's clear and melodious voice was heard from the carriage. Bai Su's beautiful eyes lit up and she simply gave up on asking Dmo Xian that sneak attack. Her spiritual body leaned towards the direction of the carriage and said, Little beauty, you and Dmo Xian are really a match made in heaven, both of you are so smart. Tell me, what did you see? Hearing Bai Su's seductive tone and her weird auntie look, Yiqing Luo's eyes and lips twitched uncontrollably. She was speechless. Bai Su's pitiful sister had lost her face and was about to die from excessive blood loss. Bai Su could actually stand in front of her and joke with her as if nothing had happened. Was she so sure that Bai Mei would not die? But Bai Su didn't care about Bai Mei's life or death. Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't care. Bai Mei, who had lost her face and was about to become a cripple, could no longer stir up any waves. Moreover, after this incident, if Bai Su really wanted to spare Bai Mei's life, she would definitely make arrangements for Bai Mei. Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto Bai Su, as she calmly opened her mouth to continue her words. Secluded Palace's motive is to borrow the hands of the Underworld Palace, to manufacture the ghost flame candle, to provide this human face with energy. What? Dark Secluded Palace. Dark Secluded Palace wants to make use of us to manufacture ghost flame candles? When Hell Palace's people heard Yiqing Luo's words, they were all shocked. Even though they had committed all sorts of atrocities, such as murder and skinning. However, to them, doing such sinister things on their own was a form of entertainment. But if all of this was someone else's scheme, someone who was deliberately using them, those people from Underworld Palace simply couldn't accept this. Towards the reactions of those people from Hell Palace, Yiqing Luo wasn't interested to bother about them. She narrowed her eyes and stared at the human face carefully. This human face should be able to absorb enough energy soon. Who is the target of this human face? Her frivolous smile contained a hint of mockery. Dmo Xian's eyes darkened. Everyone only felt a gust of cold wind brushing past. That tall figure was already standing in the carriage, as his long arm drew back, pulling the young lady into his embrace. At the same time. Chapter 3071. The target is actually me? Bai Su cursed in a very ungraceful manner. Her spiritual body shook and quickly avoided the human face. However, it was obvious that the human face had set its eyes on Bai Su. With a swift turn, it caught up with her. The dense yin qi was sinister and strange. This yin qi is really scary. Bai Su curled her lips and said, how many people's resentment and yin qi did it absorb to gather such dense yin qi? If I'm contaminated by it, I'm afraid my spiritual body will be destroyed. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo saw Bai Su being chased around by that human face. The green candlelight dragged out a trail of traces. She tugged Dmo Xian's sleeve. I am very safe in the enchantment, you go and deal with that human face first. She won't die. Dmo Xian didn't even bat an eyelid. If I save her, you will be jealous. Yiqing Luo, she just felt that. Bai Su should have a good relationship with him. If something happened to Bai Su in front of him, it would be his responsibility. Moreover, did she look like someone who would be jealous? Do I look like someone who's being unreasonable? Like? Apparently, Bai Su, who was escaping, also heard this sentence. She made a turn and rushed to the carriage, Dmo Xian, boy, can't you have some virtue of respecting the old and cherishing the young? You want an old man like me to block the knife for your little beauty, don't you feel embarrassed? Yes. Dmo Xian was decisive, his voice was cold. Bai Su gritted her teeth. Dmo Xian continued coldly, admit that you are an old woman? F***ck. Bai Su was furious. Go and protect your little beauty. I'm not doing this anymore. Just as she finished her words, Bai Su's spirit body suddenly shook and disappeared in the air. The face that glowed with a dark green light missed its target. It swayed a few times in the air. That human face turned its face towards the direction of the carriage. Yiqing Luo's face was thick as she stared straight at her. The visual impact was quite terrifying. Yiqing Luo frowned, the human face's target is indeed me. Attacking Bai Su was just a cover. She wanted to use Bai Su to lure Dmo Xian out. The human face took the opportunity to attack her. Obviously, this human face had its own thoughts. Or perhaps, someone was secretly manipulating this human face? This thought made Yiqing Luo's expression congeal. She was just about to lift the veil of the carriage and sense the surroundings to see if there were any unfamiliar auras. Just as he moved, her waist was caught by the man's strong arm. Her back leaned against the man's broad chest. The elegant scent of sandalwood soothed her heart. Stay, wait for me. Dmo Xian lowered his head and whispered into her ear. He caressed her hair gently with his large and thick palms. After that, he leaped out of the carriage and headed towards the human mask. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo frowned, the surroundings, she only managed to spit out 2 words. Yiqing Luo's voice paused. Her face was a little gloomy. She actually couldn't move. Yiqing Luo stared angrily at Dmo Xian's back. She was in the enchantment boundary, no one could plot against her. She couldn't move, it must be Dmo Xian's trick. Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo shouted angrily, why did you trap me? Dmo Xian's sleeves moved and purple light shone. The majestic and violent profound energy wrapped that human face. The dark green yin qi began to surge. Chapter 3072. 2 bursts of energy transformed into a huge light blade, as it kept on engulfing each other. The violent and terrifying strength qi roared and buzzed within the Hell Palace. Gravel flew everywhere as the candle flame flickered. This was a powerful pressure. Even those few people from the Hell Palace couldn't help but clutch their chests as they spat out blood. Not to mention those few crippled people who were lying on the ground without any chance to retaliate. When the 2 bursts of energy tangled to the brink of a volcanic eruption. On the rock wall, those strange ghostly green candle flame candles swayed and fell off the rock wall. The ghostly fire candle's speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths' time, the ghostly fire candle had already rolled to the side of Xia Ba and Len Yen. The ghostly green candle flame instantly enveloped both of their bodies. Hiss hiss, the candle flame swayed violently, giving off an extremely pungent smell in the air. This time, the smell was extremely obvious. Yiqing Luo just took a sniff and she could smell this smell. A thick rotten smell. But a moment later, that ball of ghostly green candle flame swayed once again. On the ground, there were no signs of those 2 lumps of flesh and blood. Only their clothes were left, which proved that they indeed existed. This scene made the Hell Palace's people's faces turn paler. It's here again. The ghostly fire candle is swallowing living people again. Swish swish swish, after the ghostly green candle flame swallowed Xia Ba and Len Yen, the candle flame started to sway vigorously. As though it had absorbed a huge amount of energy, it started to dance wildly in joy. Hiss, another sound of the candle flame swaying was heard. She saw the energy which was entangled with Dmo Xian, with a whoosh, the ghostly green glow scurrying. The ghostly green glow instantly swallowed Dmo Xian's purple electric glow. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo saw this and her heart became even more anxious. She wanted to move, but her 4 limbs were still restrained by an invisible force, totally unable to move. Immediately, Yiqing Luo became anxious. Ah Xian, the surroundings are filled with the ghostly fire candle's yin qi. That human face skin relies on the yin qi to constantly increase its energy. As long as the ghostly fire candle doesn't extinguish, the human face skin will have an endless supply of energy. This was also the reason why the Palace of Gloomy Darkness chose the Underworld Palace. Because the madman here had killed too many people, and because the terrain was shady, the entire Hell Prefecture was quiet. The entire Hell Palace was filled with a gloomy aura. It was the most suitable place to make will-o'-the-wisp candles. It was also the most suitable place to cultivate yin energy. The people of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness put the strange human face on Bai Mei's face. He used Bai Mei as a medium to transmit the human skin. All he had to do was send Bai Mei to the Underworld Palace. The human skin absorbed all the resentment and vitality of the ghost fire candle. That human face would become a weapon to kill without spilling blood. It could be said, the entire Hell Prefecture was now a magnetic field of human faces. The human face skin could continuously increase its energy, and it did not need to worry about running out of energy. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. No matter how powerful Ah Xian was, he was still a human. There would also come a time when the energy would run out. Bang! Just as Yiqing Luo was looking on helplessly, that dark green glint started to expand, as it completely enveloped Dmo Xian's purple light. Only to hear an exploding sound of the air vibrating. The dark green light was like pieces of shattered green crystals, as it shot out in all directions. The purple light was glistening. That tall and straight figure stood silently on the original spot, with his hands behind his back. The man was dressed in a purple robe, as the hem of his robe fluttered along with the strong wind, as though purple clouds were rolling. Just a glance. Chapter 3073. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes were filled with a biting cold glint. His sleeves moved and a thick profound energy filled the air, rippling out circles after circles of profound waves. The dark green yin light which enveloped the human face skin seemed to have been squeezed by something, as it kept twisting and changing shape. That human face skin. It was only 5 steps away from the carriage. Through a layer of gauze, Yiqing Luo could clearly see that under the dark green yin light, that human face skin was twisted and squeezed. That was a kind of déjà vu feeling of a face being squeezed into a ball. The eyes, nose and mouth were all squeezed into a line. The surrounding candlelight swayed even more violently, as though it was going to burn the entire Hell Palace. The dark green light continued to sway. It added a bit of frightening treachery to this gloomy Hell Palace. The dark green yin light continued to scuttle towards the direction of the human face skin. But, no matter how turbulent the yin light was, recklessly providing energy to the human face skin, the twisted and squeezed feeling of the human face skin had not lessened. On the contrary, it became more and more twisted, as though it was about to curl into a ball. Gradually, that face's features could not be seen. On the contrary, Dmo Xian. His expression was cold and his peach blossom eyes had no emotions at all. A powerful and majestic aura was constantly being released from his body. But the expression on his face was still the same as before. It was as light as the wind and clouds, as though the consumption of energy to him was of no importance. 2 bursts of energy collided continuously in the air, giving out bursts of air exploding sound. Just like what Yiqing Luo had speculated. The human face skin had relied on the Hell Palace to become its magnetic field, and with the yin qi provided by the ghost fire candle, it constantly replenished its energy and increased its energy. Time and time again, trying to suppress the pressure created by Dmo Xian. But, no matter how much the human face increased its energy, Dmo Xian was able to suppress the human face skin, making it unable to resist at all. After a long period of suppression, the human face skin apparently became agitated. The dark green yin light was like a hurricane once again, sweeping up a series of violent tornadoes, twisting and twisting the purple light which was suppressing it. Dmo Xian's eyes were deep, and one look, it was bottomless. Profound and unfathomable, making one feel an inexplicable chill. He did not move. He allowed the tornadoes and hurricanes to wrap around his power. His purple robe was fluttering in the dark green wind. His ink-black hair also flew on his shoulders. A few breaths later, the human face skin also realized that its own agitation, to Dmo Xian, could not even stir up a single ripple. His face was a little stiff from anger. It was also the moment when the human face froze in anger. Dmo Xian's gaze suddenly froze. He, who had not moved for a long time, suddenly flipped his palm. Waves of air surged and surged. The powerful profound energy was like a huge boiling wave. In an instant, it bound the human face. The human face suddenly let out a hissing sound. Then, the human face that was twisted into a ball began to emit green smoke. The surrounding yin light also began to scatter wildly. When Yiqing Luo saw this, her pupils constricted. She finally understood why Dmo Xian had been using his own profound energy to suppress the human face instead of directly taking action to get rid of the human face. Dmo Xian's suppression of human face. This caused the human face to become more and more anxious and uneasy. Once it was anxious, even if it was a human face without any vitality, it would also reveal a flaw. As long as there was a flaw in the human face's mental energy, Dmo Xian took this opportunity to strike. Chapter 3074. If the human face skin really had its own consciousness. Controlling the human face skin. There was a possibility that there would be a chance to start from the human face skin, to find out the purpose of the human face skin, and the identity of the person behind the scenes. The secluded palace had planned so many things step by step. Yiqing Luo was really curious. What was the motive of the person behind the secluded palace? As a high-ranking person in the upper realm, to be able to hide himself under Jun Qinggu and Bai Su's investigation, his ability was definitely not to be underestimated. Why would he put in so much effort for a Nirvana realm? Moreover, it wasn't that the person behind the scenes didn't know Dmo Xian's identity. But he still dared to go against Dmo Xian. It could be seen that that person was extremely confident, totally not worried that Dmo Xian would find out his identity. Hiss hiss, the sound that the human face skin made was getting more and more obvious. More and more green smoke was emitting from the human face skin. The green yin qi in the surroundings gradually dissipated. The human face skin kept struggling. His twisted facial features were extremely hideous and terrifying. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes squinted slightly, his qi waves were monstrous, surging like waves. Just as Dmo Xian was preparing for the last strike, to completely cut off the source of the human face skin's mental power. The human face skin which was emitting green smoke suddenly gave out an extremely ear-piercing, hiss-hiss sound. Not knowing where the energy came from. That piece of human face which had curled up into a ball, directly broke through Dmo Xian's purple light barrier, and like a lightning, it charged towards the carriage. Just a distance of 5 steps away. With a speed as fast as lightning. Almost in a blink of an eye. That human face skin had already charged out of the enchantment. The human face skin which broke through the obstruction. It had already opened up, revealing its facial features. Its hollow eyes, nose, and mouth reflected a deep green light, looking extremely frightening. Dmo Xian's expression changed, his deep eyes turned cold. Lil Luo, be careful. His figure moved, speedily moving towards the carriage. The maids who were guarding around the carriage saw this and quickly wanted to block in front of the carriage. But before they could move, the dark green yin light that came from all directions wrapped around their limbs, causing the 4 of them to be unable to move for a moment. When they quickly dealt with the yin light that was surging towards them, that human face had already penetrated through the enchantment as it headed straight towards Yiqing Luo's face. This series of events actually happened in the blink of an eye. Just as the human skin was about to cover his face, Yiqing Luo's fingers moved and the glower flame fan swiftly opened up, blocking in front of her. Dark force burst forth. Yiqing Luo's fingers flickered rapidly once again. The glower flame fan danced excitedly on her fingertips, as she swiftly counterattacked. But, at this moment, pang! An earth-shattering noise resounded. The ground shook violently. Yiqing Luo only felt that her wrist was held by an extremely strong force. Immediately after, her delicate body was pulled and thrown into a chest that was filled with coldness. The faintly familiar smell made Yiqing Luo frown slightly. Just as he was about to break free. However, a strong arm forcefully locked onto her waist. An ice-cold voice floated down from above, "Don't move." When this voice entered Yiqing Luo's ears, it made Yiqing Luo quivered, as she completely woke up. Her eyes suddenly widened as she raised her head to look over. What entered her eyes was a cold and aloof side face, as though it was meticulously sculpted. Chapter 3075. When Yiqing Luo met that pair of icy cold eyes, she shuddered. "Zhu Wu Xian, why are you here?" Wasn't the person in front of her Zhu Wu Xian? He was dressed in a red robe, like a blazing fire, looking ostentatious and reckless. But the aura around him was cold and arrogant, and his imposing manner was extremely sharp, making one not dare to get close to him. One of his arms was tightly wrapped around her waist, while the other hand was bare-handed, blocking the human face skin. Human face skin? Yiqing Luo's struggle stopped as her eyes swiftly shifted onto the human face skin. Endless dark green light merged with the human face skin, as it wrapped around Zhu Wu Xian's right palm. It was like a piece of human face skin, tightly sucking on Zhu Wu Xian's hand. Zhu Wu Xian had helped her to block the encroachment of the human face skin. But the scene which made Yiqing Luo's heart cursed even more. Dmo Xian was standing on the other side of the human face skin, which was opposite her. Directly opposite, less than 2 steps away. He was releasing his profound energy, blocking the human face skin's attack. Yiqing Luo. In front of the main wife's boyfriend, what should she do if she was hugged in another man's arms? Waiting online. It was urgent. In the current situation, she couldn't struggle. Zhu Wu Xian, this lad, couldn't he be more self-aware and let go of her? If he wanted to save her, then save her. Why was there a need to be so touchy? Most importantly, in the earlier situation, she actually didn't need Zhu Wu Xian to save her. She could handle it too. At this moment, she had to rack her brains again to coax her jealous boyfriend. Yiqing Luo wanted to cry, but the matter had already happened, so she could only brace herself to face it. After all, Zhu Wu Xian had rushed out to save her at this moment, that was out of good intentions. Let go of your hand. Dmo Xian's icy cold gaze was fixed on Zhu Wu Xian's hand, which was wrapped around Yiqing Luo's waist. Zhu Wu Xian shot a chilly glance at him, as his hand, wrapped even tighter around her. Dmo Xian's face sunk as his profound energy was drawn from the human face skin, as his long arms swiftly stretched out towards Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes narrowed slightly as he hugged Yiqing Luo tightly while his body swept backwards, avoiding Dmo Xian's hand. Zhu Wu Xian. Dmo Xian's brows were tightly knitted as a cold glint flickered in his eyes, exuding a murderous intent. He speedily went up once again, trying to snatch Yiqing Luo back. But Zhu Wu Xian obviously did it on purpose, hugging Yiqing Luo tightly, refusing to let go. Yiqing Luo was led by Zhu Wu Xian as she turned left and right. She could feel that Dmo Xian's rage was rising continuously. She furrowed her eyebrows and suddenly raised her hand, her fingers grabbing onto Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. "Let me down." Just as she moved, she saw something from the corner of her eyes, and her expression changed drastically. "Zhu Wuxin, be careful of people's pride." When Dmo Xian withdrew his profound energy, that human face skin also knew that it was pincered from the front and back, and had no way to escape. Hence it might as well go all the way, as it directly pressed the human face skin onto Zhu Wuxian's arm. The skin of the human face tightly wrapped around Zhu Wuxin's palm. Zhu Wuxian frowned as his icy cold gaze swept past the human face skin. Hurry and let go of me, first remove the human face skin from your hand. Yiqing Luo tried to pry his hand away. No matter. Zhu Wuxian calmly spat out 2 words, as he still hugged her waist, without any intention to let go. That human face skin followed the dim green light, as it slowly merged into Zhu Wuxian's skin. Chapter 3076. Zhu Wuxian's eyelids drooped as his black pupils were deep and cold, as he stared fixedly into her eyes. That grave and stern face, magnified into Yiqing Luo's pupils. His thin lips curled into a faint cold arc. Let me hug a little longer. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian's voice wasn't considered very gentle. But as compared to his icy cold, stiff tone, it was considered much gentler. Especially with that faint smile on his face. Yiqing Luo only felt a layer of goosebumps all over her body. Her lips twitched a few times. Zhu Wuxian, are you King sick? Yiqing Luo couldn't take it anymore as she tugged Zhu Wuxian's arm, which was covered by the human face skin, and exerted force. Her petite body left Zhu Wuxian's embrace. Her 5 fingers swiftly locked onto Zhu Wuxian's wrist, making use of the silver silk shot out from the glower flame fan in an attempt to prevent the human face skin and Zhu Wuxian from merging. But Yiqing Luo's speed was ultimately a step too slow. Just at the instance when the silver silk shot out, the human face skin had completely merged into Zhu Wuxian's arm along his palm. Yiqing Luo tugged on his arm as she gritted her teeth and scolded Zhu Wuxian, has your brain been kicked by a donkey? Can't you feel the danger of this human face skin? You're just going to allow this human face skin to enter your body and control you? Do you find it interesting? Yiqing Luo was truly speechless towards Zhu Wuxian. There was obviously a chance to stop the human face skin from merging. But Zhu Wuxian didn't think much of it. She had to be suspicious. Was Zhu Wuxian intentionally trying to make the human face skin merge with him? Just as Yiqing Luo was going crazy, Zhu Wuxin's slightly amused voice rang in his ears. Very interesting. Interesting? Tell me, what's interesting about it? Yiqing Luo was about to explode. Zhu Wuxian's deep eyes gazed deeply at her. That gaze was mixed with a sliver of, not obvious gentleness. Hugging you, smelling your scent, it's very interesting. Yiqing Luo's face instantly turned black. Wasn't he being a little too honest? Suddenly, a powerful force locked onto her waist. She flung herself backward. She fell into a broad embrace. The man's domineering aura enveloped her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and saw a face which was even darker than hers. Ah, Xian. Yiqing Luo coughed softly as she softened her tone and called out to him while her arms circled around his waist, don't be jealous, don't be jealous. You're the only one in my heart. The most important thing for us now is to retrieve the human face from Zhu Wuxian's hands. I can't take it out. Dmo Xian's face was icy cold as he spoke in a cold voice. Yiqing Luo circled Dmo Xian's neck with one hand as she kissed him on the cheek. All right, Xian. He was trying to save me, which was why he gave others the chance to take advantage of him. You don't want me to owe him a favor, right? Dmo Xian's arms suddenly tightened, pressing her tightly against his chest. After the human face skin fuses with the human body, there is only one way: the human face skin voluntarily leaves. The man's low and hoarse voice floated from above. Voluntary? Let people's faces fall off willingly. The battle between the human face skin and Dmo Xian had already injured its mental power. Now it could stay in Zhu Wuxian's body to nourish. So how could it possibly leave willingly? Then Zhu Wuxian Yiqing Luo really wanted to hammer Zhu Wuxian, that brat, to death. The The human face skin was such a dangerous thing, and he actually didn't have any vigilance at all. Chapter 3077. Yiqing Luo nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, as she walked a few steps towards Hell Palace's side. Yiqing Luo wanted to turn back several times to take a look at Zhu Wu Xian. But she was held back by Dmo Xian's arm, stopping her movements. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's little hand hugged Dmo Xian's waist as she called out softly, "That human face is really dangerous. If Zhu Wu Xian is controlled by that human face, then what should we do?" It was no wonder that Dmo Xian was so angry. If it was her, seeing Dmo Xian being hugged by another woman in front of her. No matter what the reason was. She was definitely more irritable than Dmo Xian. He would even tear apart that woman who had hugged Dmo Xian. So it was natural for Dmo Xian to be jealous and angry. But this was the logic behind it. However, Chu Wuxin was trying to save her, which was why this shameless person had the opportunity to take advantage of him. If she really didn't care, she would be too cold-blooded. Being manipulated by a shameless person, then kill him. Dmo Xian spat out a sentence that was neither cold nor warm. There was even a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's voice turned coquettish as she circled her arms around his neck. "You can't say it like that. Before there is any evidence to prove that Zhu Wuxin's appearance is related to human face, if he dies, it will be because he died to save me, and I will owe him a life." Little Luo, The man's low and hoarse voice sounded a little gloomy. Yiqing Luo, who was interrupted, raised her head in a daze. She raised her head. Her chin was held by the man's slender fingers. The man's peach blossom eyes were flowing with a cold glint. The ripples were as deep as an abyss, with no end in sight. "I really don't like it when you use such a tone to talk to me because of him." Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. "I don't like hearing his name from your mouth." His extremely possessive words made Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes tremble uncontrollably. Her eyes met his. After a long while, he slowly closed his eyes and lowered his eyelids. Yes, think from another perspective. She absolutely did not like to hear any other woman's name from Dmo Xian's mouth. Even she herself could not accept this. What right did he have to force Dmo Xian to accept it? Because I love you too much. So he cared too much. Because he cared too much. Therefore, no one else could get their hands on it. "I'm sorry." Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and apologized in a low voice. Dmo Xian's hand slid away from her chin. One of his hands was still on her shoulder. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and couldn't see the man's expression. He could only hear a soft sigh of helplessness above his head. Just as the atmosphere between the two of them gradually warmed up. Zhu Wu Xian, who was standing on the original spot, gazing deeply at Yiqing Luo, suddenly opened his mouth. "My hand hurts a lot." There was not the slightest fluctuation in his voice, nor did he sound like he was in pain. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly as she glanced sideways at Zhu Wu Xian. "Yiqing Luo, my right palm is extremely painful." Zhu Wu Xian was extremely serious as he repeated this sentence. Yiqing Luo's vision drooped downwards as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian's right hand, which was hanging by his side. That was the hand that was fused into the human skin's body just now. Pain, was it because the human skin had started to invade Zhu Wu Xian's body? "If you don't come over and help me up, I might die from the pain." Zhu Wu Xian continued speaking expressionlessly. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened slightly. Chapter 3078. Her heart trembled. She shut her eyes fiercely as she hugged Dmo Xian's waist. "Let's go back to the palace." There was no need for her to hesitate any further. As a woman who had already decided to stay for life and had a fiancé, she indeed shouldn't have given Zhu Wu Xian any hope. She couldn't do it herself to accept a lady who adored Dmo Xian by his side. She couldn't ask Dmo Xian to do it. She couldn't be that selfish. Towards Zhu Wu Xian. Right from the start, she had already expressed it very clearly. But Zhu Wu Xian continued to do things his own way, ignoring her wishes. He had to pester her endlessly. She could only say her apologies. To her, no one was more important than Xian. Yiqing Luo held Dmo Xian's arm and was about to leave. The man next to her stopped in his tracks, with no intention to leave. Yiqing Luo raised her head in puzzlement as she looked at Dmo Xian. Xian, what's the matter? Dmo Xian's slender fingers caressed her cheek. His narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with a deep glint as his thin lips curled into a smile. His eyes seemed to be filled with a pool of spring water. Silly lass. He sighed softly as his low and hoarse voice was filled with unspeakable pampering. I stopped you because I wanted to see what kind of place I occupy in your heart. Dmo Xian's voice became deeper. A faint magnetism passed through her eardrums. It numbed Yiqing Luo's heart. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened slightly as she looked at Dmo Xian's charming eyes as she blinked. Dmo Xian's arms tightened as he hugged her petite body tightly in his arms. He rested his chin on her shoulder. Getting closer. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the man's warm breath, spraying on her skin. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled slightly. As though something was tightly clasping her heart. It made her unable to describe what feeling she was feeling. She pursed her pink lips as she was about to say something. The man's thin lips came closer as his voice became softer. Sorry. I know I'm wrong, I shouldn't have tested your feelings towards me. She could tell. There was a hint of caution in his voice that was hard to detect. That tone which was filled with guilt made the words which Yiqing Luo wanted to say stuck in her throat. Seeing that Yiqing Luo remained silent, Dmo Xian's tone became even more aggrieved, as his arms wrapped even tighter. It's my pride causing mischief, it's my imagination that ran wild, testing your heart, Lil Luo, I really know I'm in the wrong, can you forgive me? Towards Yiqing Luo's feelings towards him. It wasn't that Dmo Xian wasn't confident. It was just that Zhu Wuxin had appeared. This caused him to be extremely displeased. Because I love you too much. That was why he couldn't help but probe. Hearing Dmo Xian's slightly coquettish tone, Yiqing Luo didn't have any other thoughts in her heart at this moment. Dmo Xian was probing. It would indeed make her feel very uncomfortable. But this was also because of Zhu Wuxin's appearance. Other men, such as Gu Jingyu, because he knew that she had no connection with Gu Jingyu or any other man. There was no possibility of further development. But Zhu Wuxin was different. The person whom Zhu Wuxin adored was the former Yiqing Luo. After that, he saved her time and time again. It could be said that no matter if it was the promise in the past, or the current life-saving feelings, she was unable to really treat Zhu Wuxin coldly. Chapter 3079. If she put herself in his shoes. She thought that she would definitely make the same attempt. Although Zhu Wu Xian was a busybody and reaped what he sowed, but after all, it was because he helped you to block the attack from the human face. Dmo Xian continued to speak. His tone was filled with disdain towards Zhu Wu Xian. Dmo Xian shot a glance at Zhu Wu Xian in disdain and as though declaring, he kept the young lady in his arms. If he really dies here today, I'm afraid that you will remember him for the rest of your life. Hearing the man's childish words, Yiqing Luo was speechless. But a certain softness in her heart was slowly covered by warmth. In the knowledge of love. She and Dmo Xian were both beginners. They had to take one step at a time to slowly learn the lesson of love. How could she bear to blame Dmo Xian? Between the both of them, all sorts of pink bubbles started to spread. Zhu Wu Xian's chilly voice broke the atmosphere. Amen, if I can make her remember me for the rest of her life, it's not bad to die here. Yiqing Luo, what on earth was this rascal trying to do? Dmo Xian's expression sunk. His icy cold gaze looked towards Zhu Wu Xian as he sneered, "If you want to die, this lord can fulfill your wish, but absolutely not now." Zhu Wu Xian's chilly eyes met with Dmo Xian's as his lips curled upwards. Both parties were aggressive and no one was willing to give in. Not too far away, Ah Lei and Ah Feng were already dumbstruck as they looked at their own master in a daze. Previously they had heard Ah Feng talk about how the overlord had thrown away his high and mighty overlord status and face in front of their future mistress, turning into a loyal dog. They had always felt that Ah Feng had been bribed by their future mistress, hence he would speak up for her. But today, they had seen it with their own eyes. Then they understood, Ah Feng was absolutely not exaggerating. The overlord was in front of their future mistress. He didn't care about his face at all. Ever since they could remember, they had been following the overlord's identity for more than 10 years. This was the first time they saw the overlord being so gentle, so childish. Looked like the day when their future mistress would become the mistress of the imperial palace was not far away. Cough. Yi Qing Luo looked at the atmosphere between the both of them and coughed lightly, "The both of you. How much longer do you intend to stare at me?" Dmo Xian hugged Yi Qing Luo's slender waist tightly as he snorted coldly and retracted his gaze. Zhu Wuxin's eyes were cold. He slowly moved his gaze away. Then, he let out a soft snort from his nostrils. Yi Qing Luo, these two people, were really like a pair of enemies. Who knows, they might even be able to develop a romantic relationship between two lovers. This thought made Yi Qing Luo look at Dmo Xian and Zhu Wu Xian. Her gaze was filled with a strange emotion. She shook her head and tossed those messy thoughts out of her head. All right. The most important thing now is to deal with the matter of the human face skin. If the human face skin remains in Chu Wuxin's body, it will ultimately be a hidden danger. She raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian. "To prove my innocence, I won't check on his arm, so you go ahead." Dmo Xian shot a disdainful glance at Zhu Wu Xian. "I don't want." Zhu Wu Xian opened his mouth coldly. "Yi Qing Luo, I'm doing this to save you. You should take care of me personally." Ha! Dmo Xian gave a cold laugh as he released Yi Qing Luo's waist and walked directly towards Zhu Wu Xian. Zhu Wuxin's eyes trembled, and a piercingly cold light flowed in his eyes. There was a moment of silence. He raised his right hand and stretched it out in front of Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian gave a cold laugh as he mercilessly pulled Zhu Wu Xian's wrist over. Then, the wind from his palm moved, and the gathered profound energy seeped into Zhu Wuxin's arm, searching for the movement of the human face. His actions were fast, ruthless and accurate. It totally didn't give Zhu Wu Xian any time to adapt. A series of actions. Although Zhu Wu Xian didn't make any sound. But from the cold sweat on his forehead, and the tightly creased brows, it was obvious that he was enduring the pain. Yi Qing Luo looked at the both of them anxiously. It was until roughly 1 incense's time later, Dmo Xian released Zhu Wu Xian's arm. Chapter 3081. Zhu Wu Xian seemed as though he had lost all his energy as he staggered backwards with a pale face. His right arm hung loosely by the side of his body. His cold eyes lifted up slightly, coincidentally facing Yi Qing Luo's figure. He looked at Yi Qing Luo as he stretched out his little hand and pressed it gently on Dmo Xian's chest. That devastatingly beautiful face was filled with worry. He heard Yi Qing Luo asking Dmo Xian in a low voice if he felt uncomfortable anywhere. Like. Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with Dmo Xian alone. Zhu Wu Xian lowered his eyes as he fixed his gaze on his right arm. The one who was injured was obviously him, wasn't it? The one who should be cared for should be him, wasn't it? Why? Yi Qing Luo's first concern was Dmo Xian. Was this the difference between love and not love? Zhu Wu Xian only felt that the air seemed to have solidified. He even found it difficult to breathe. Every breath he took, his heart felt as though it was being gripped tightly, so painful that his face turned pale. Just as Zhu Wu Xian felt that his heart was being torn apart, eroding him. A voice suddenly rang beside his ear. Zhu Wu Xian, is your arm in pain? Why are you sweating so much? This voice was like the sound of nature as it instantly soothed the tearing pain in his heart. It was like a warm current, filling up his heart. This strange feeling made Zhu Wu Xian feel extremely unfamiliar. But when he raised his eyes, his pupils reflected the young lady's devastatingly beautiful face. He totally didn't have any sense of resistance. Seeing Zhu Wu Xian staring at himself, not saying a word for some time. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she got a little anxious. Zhu Wu Xian? Have you turned silly from the pain or something? Why aren't you saying anything? Zhu Wu Xian's eyelashes moved. His cold eyes were flowing with light. He collected his eyes and slowly puffed out a gust of air from his nostrils. This gust of air was simply too soft. Yiqing Luo didn't hear it clearly as she looked at him in puzzlement. Zhu Wu Xian repeated, my right hand is in pain. Earlier when he tugged my hand, he used a lot of force. I suspect that he wants to destroy my right hand. As he was saying that, Zhu Wu Xian's icy cold gaze looked towards Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo expressed that to use such a calm as still water tone to complain, this feeling, was really awkward. Zhu Wuxin lowered his head again and looked at his right hand that could not be moved. He said, if you don't take care of me, my right hand might be broken by him tomorrow. Yiqing Luo, she was just about to express that it was rare for Zhu Wu Xian to say such a long speech. Then, he heard Zhu Wuxin's next sentence. Yiqing Luo facepalmed speechlessly, young man, isn't this your motive? He could even complain to her with a straight face, rubbing his nose against her face. It could be seen that Zhu Wuxin was not really about to die of pain like he said. She simply retracted her gaze and looked at Dmo Xian. Xian, can the human face be taken out? I can't take it out. Dmo Xian held her in his arms as his tone was cold, I'm not joking. The only way to make the human face skin leave the body is if the human face skin willingly leaves the body. Even if I use my strength to force it, if it's not willing, the one who gets hurt will only be Zhu Wu Xian. Still, it couldn't be done. Could it be that if the human face skin was unwilling to leave, then Zhu Wu Xian would have to suffer the erosion of the human face skin? If it was controlled by that human face skin, she wasn't sure if she could do anything to Zhu Wu Xian. Furthermore, you're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.